Each year, Nigeria experiences resultant floods, which is occasioned by torrential rainfall that continues to destroy homes, farmlands, and valuable properties. Now, flooding is becoming one of the most frequent and costly natural disasters in the country, leaving in its trail countless damages in the past years. Relevant agencies like the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, and the Nigerian Hydrological Agency predicted the likelihood of flooding during the rainy season in their annual flood prediction outlook for 2018. So, what are the factors responsible for flood? And how can we prevent flood? What are the consequences? And whose responsibility is it to tackle flooding? This is our focus on Nigeria today. Thank you for joining us. I am Joy Usiago. I have two guests on the program to talk about this year's flood outlook. Directly sitting beside me is Mr. Daniel Okafor. He is the General Manager, Hydrometeorological Services, Directorate of Applied Meteorology, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Also in the studio with us is Florence Wenegeme. She is the Assistant Director, Forecasting, Response and Mitigation, Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Welcome to the studios and thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now let's start with you, Mr. Okafor. What is flood?
Flood is as a result of intense rainfall that occurs over a short period of time, and essentially when at the onset it normally comes as a flash flood, which is not really the flood we are talking about. The actual flood really sets in at the peak of the rainy season, which most times, as predicted, is between the months of July to September. That's when we expect the normal flooding across some states in the country.
All right, Madam Wenegeme, let's come to you now. What are the causes of flood?
In actual sense, we have the natural flooding that could happen, and we have the man-made flooding that can come up. And the natural one is like what he has said. There's every possibility that there's a heavy downpour. Apart from that, heavy downpour can cause flooding. Another one could be that maybe a dam that is just around the corner may release some kind of water. Maybe they try to discharge some water out and it floods into a certain area of the FCT or any part of the country. That is what we call a natural one. But again, the artificial flooding can be caused by people living within an environment, within a community, that they may decide to be dumping some kind of refuge within the stream, a small stream that will be there, and thereby cause flooding. Then all the drainages around that community may be blocked.
All right, Mr. Okafor, now that we've established what flood is, for this year, let's talk about the prediction for the year 2018.
Okay. For the year 2018, during our release of the annual flood, seasonal rainfall prediction, it was predicted that the onset for the southern parts of the country will be in the month of March, while the season is December. Then the northern states will experience theirs in June to about September. And the planting season for, say, Katsina, the cessation date is for 28th of September, is the earliest, before the other states. So, and it was equally predicted that in the year 2018, the rainfall will be normal across the country, with some places that might have some abnormalities, like the rainfall predicted might not be up to what it is, or in some cases you might have the rains, being over what was predicted, because we are in the era of climate change, and NIMET, as it were, we do this prediction for the year, and we do daily monitoring of what obtains to know if what we predicted is coming to fruition, and to know what are the changes in order to advise the society through the disaster management agencies on what to do. And we equally capitalize on what the media agencies do in trying to sensitize the public. And that's why we equally want to appreciate NTA, even for that slot you're giving us, which though it's not enough, to sensitize the public on the daily forecast of what obtains, what they're expecting. Like that of today, we had that forecast. And if you are in some areas in Abuja, you see that at a point in time, the weather changed. There was some sort of shower, which ceased. All those, yes, scientifically that we have proofs to tell you what happened. And like that of tomorrow now, maybe during your news cast, we normally have a minute slot or so where we tell the nation what obtains, what they should expect the next day.
Well, thank you very much for appreciating us, and we're also glad to do that for our society. That's our job. But beyond the one we do on our part at the NTA, what else are you doing in terms of advocacy, in terms of awareness to reach a larger audience? Because not many people watch the television in the rural areas. So how do you get across? So
what actually obtains that, yes, that's why we take out a date in the year. That of this year came about, I think, sometime in March. I can't remember the exact date now. To go out and launch what we call the seasonal rainfall predictions, what we obtain across the country. Having done that, we do what we call downscaling, as in trying to reach out the grassroots in the areas of maybe agriculture, trying to advise farmers on how to go about our predictions. Because in our bulletin for the seasonal rainfall prediction, we have details of the onset and cessation dates for various crop seasons.
So how do you reach out to farmers, especially those who are at the grassroots?
Those who are at the grassroots, we actually have what we call collaboration. We're going to collaboration with some of these agricultural agencies who capitalize on our products, call us to go arrange for something like a seminar that we go, we do, we raise questionnaires to ask the farmers, what are their challenges and what have you. Based on that, we do what we call, we get the lat and the longitude of their farms as against where we have our meteor stations. We come back to our laboratories and sort of downscale as in make predictions that suits their own locality to be able to advise them on the kind of crop or the cropping season they should go into. And most importantly, in the north, we do advise them to go for crops that have a short maturity span, so that they don't plant crops that the rainy season will not be able to capture. Like in the seasonal rainfall prediction, we predicted that across the country that we have a rainfall amount of between 400 mm to 3,100. That of the northern states is 400 to 800. The south, the central states, 1,000 to 2,000. The southern states, we have 2,000 to 2,400 mm. Then the coastal cities is above 2,400 mm.
Okay, let me bring in Mrs. Wanagema in here. Let's say, since we're talking in terms of creating awareness, because it's not just enough to predict. Exactly. You must also let the people know what to do and how to prepare for it. What is your own agency doing in that direction?
Yes, in most cases, we collaborate with NIMET and wait for them to hear their own predictions. But in actual sense, as an emergency agency management, what we do is as early as January, towards the end of January into February, we go out on assessment. We carry out assessment. Already, we have areas that are flood prone within the FCT. So what we do is we make sure we go around between January and February. We make sure we end that maybe by the second week of March. We go around to all the satellite towns, the area councils, the 6 area councils we have in FCT. And I heard you mentioned about the grassroots. Yes, we do that. The first thing we do is after the assessment, we go out on early warnings. We go around the villages. What we do is we start with the area council itself at the chairman's office from each local government. From there, we now move to the traditional ruler's house. And in his palace, what we usually do is we make sure they invite the district heads, youths, people, heads of different wards, and make sure that they are all there. We have religious leaders. They all converge at the palace. And then we now create awareness. We try to make them understand what flooding is all about, and then the predictions of NIMET. So when we do that, we use English, Hausa, and Bagi to make sure we create that awareness. And we normally go with a PowerPoint presentation, we show them some films of some floodings that happen in some areas. So when we do that, they go back home to their different wards, different communities, and then they create awareness too.
All right, that's fair enough. The next question I have is for both of you, and I would like to start with Mr. Kafo. You know, in spite of advocacy and trying to work towards preventive measures, why do we still have this flooding still prevalent, and then you still find casualties at the end of the day?
I think the major problem we in NIMET have witnessed over the years is that most times people tend to tell you that they want to live with the culture of the old days, telling you that maybe those ones that really know, even without being told that where they are staying, like the flood plains, the low-lying areas, that those places are susceptible to flood. They don't want to leave the place, in the sense that they will tell that this is their ancestral home. How are you now coming now to tell them that they should live there, that they are at risk? They don't obey or listen to the forecast. Two, majority of the urban cities you have, why you have the flooding is because, you know, they are built up area, and you have little or no, you don't have much areas for infiltration to occur. When that rain comes, the drains are blocked, so when it comes for water definitely comes and it wants to find its way, and anything that obstructs it pushes everything across. And that's why most times you see the disaster. The only time human being reacts, and that is where our emergency management agencies should, you know, come up on speed, in the sense that if they don't forcefully move these people, at the end of the day, we'll have monumental loss that monies or funds that would be used to do better things to better our lives are being channeled to go and rescue human beings that had the warning that, look, leave this place, this disaster is coming. They would rather stay there, and those money are being brought. And if the government doesn't go, they will say, government is not doing anything. So, and the truth about it is that NIMET has been doing all it can, and we are looking up to agencies like NEMA, NTA, FEMA, to all come together, because it's a work that all hands must be on deck. In the Western world, things that has to do with flood, as in when you talk about disaster, is something that everybody puts his or her hands on deck to tackle, because if it doesn't affect you directly, you might have one relation or the other somewhere it's affecting. So we see that it's something that's really tying us up. So it shouldn't be the issue of it's for NIMET. NIMET goes, does the scientific work, gets this prediction, and puts it out. Call agencies like FEMA, NEMA, all, you know, stakeholders to come together to tell them, look at it. And we equally publish our bulletin, which we circulate free of charge. All
right, we'll come back and take off from here. We'll just pause now and take a break. When we return, we'll continue with our discussion on flood. Stay with us.
The Nigerian Television Authority News 24 channel, your dependable all-round news station, offering you world-class news programs, documentaries, spotlights, promos and information highlights. Take advantage of our network reach and advertise your interest, goods and services with us. NTA News 24, first among equals with digital broadcasting. You can reach us on channel 21 terrestrial TV and channel 101 on the Star Times platform. For more inquiries, please call Coretta 0803 618 9986 or Henry on 0803 379 08 84. Join us today.
Welcome back. It's still Nigeria Today, reaching you from NTA News 24 in Abuja. Thank you for staying tuned. And I still have my guests in the studio who have been talking to us about 2018 flood outlook in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for staying with us. We were talking about the issue of reactions from the public despite the warning signals and all that. And we were going to you, Mrs. Wenegeme. What has been your own experience?
Yes, it's not too far from what he has said. We have almost the same problem because after talking to them, after creating awareness, most of them will tell you that they've been living there for years. Where do we want them to go to that this is their own land? We have videos that we covered during these awareness campaigns, and you find that a lot of them will argue that they cannot live there. We were able to identify a higher plane where we could move some of them in Yaba. You know, I think in 2013 or so, 2012, yes, there was a flooding that happened there in Abaji Area Council, to be specific, in Yaba. We have been trying to move them from there. Somebody, in fact, during our last campaign, one of them said, we cannot move them from there because they were born there, their ancestors were there, they are not ready to leave, but we pleaded with them. After showing them some video clips of flooding that happened in Kubwa and Karu, they saw that, and the one that happened in Dede, that was what made some of them to agree that they were going to move. Apart from that, a lot of farming activities are going on around the riverbank. They will tell you that that is their land. We cannot stop them because of flood. They have to farm there. The recent flooding that happened in Pape, if you see the large farmlands that were destroyed, but they cannot blame anybody because it's just beside the riverbank. A lot of houses are going on there. Some of them have been marked by development control, but they don't want to move. We carried out an assessment in Lower Usma Dam. We went to Ushafa. You need to see the houses that are coming up there, building on waterways. And we tried to make them understand that these structures are not supposed to be there. But they told us that it is their land. They bought it, and it is where their forefathers left for them. They need to farm, they need to build there.
But why were they not demolished?
Well, they are yet to do that. What happened was that we just put up the report, and tomorrow is Wednesday. We are going to give them the feedback in development control, and then they will now take action.
All right, let's come back to Mr. Okafor. When there is flooding, who is responsible in terms of tackling issues? You know, we've over the years had this battle between state and the federal government. You hear some states will say, oh, it is not our responsibility, it's that of the federal government. Federal government will say it is for the state to tackle. Let's hear from the source. Who should tackle the issue of flooding?
Well, the issue of flooding, like I said earlier, is not what you say is just for one person. When it happens in the states, I guess the states governments are shying away from it because of the enormous funds that is involved, and that's why they tend to tell you that there's NEMA, because if they define the levels of disaster that NEMA should intervene and that the state should come, I think that would be a better thing, because that's why in the Igbo parlance where I come from, they say that a goat that several people own, that hunger kills it. I see it as what is happening, where when they are still fighting, is it the state that will intervene or the federal that will intervene? You have lots of things happening. Disasters that would have been checkmated will not be checkmated. It comes and goes through. At the end of the day, maybe the NEMA, as the National Emergency Maintenance Agency, might say, okay, let them come in. But then the destruction that would have been prevented, has already happened.
So what exactly is the problem? Why can't these agencies collaborate and work together? After all, in the end, it's in the interest of the nation.
That is why I think maybe from the presidency, not just the president, because these agencies were created just to ease, the operations, in case we have emergencies, for them to intervene. The major problem we are having in several of these agencies is that of synergy. Nobody wants to, work together. they want to work single-handedly. If the states are truly collaborating with the national emergency authorities, it just takes for them, probably they have relief materials or advices or whatever to do. It's just for them to send some few of their men to the states where this thing is happening, for those ones to support them and do it. But most I see that they are transporting things maybe from Abuja here, going to far places where these things happen. So if the agencies should synergize, the word there is synergy. That's why when you talk about NEMA, NISA, NIMET, and other states emergency agencies, authorities, it's about synergy because it's about disaster. NIMET, does its own finding, collecting data from the meteor stations, develops them and gives its prediction. And based on the prediction that NIMET has done, NISA takes off from there because they have our own input, our rainfall data, which we give to them. They add to other parameters, they have to collate to give out their own annual flood outlook. So when they do that, it's matters of NEMA taking off immediately, and FEMA, NEMA, SEMA, whatever you call them, they're all emergency units to take off from there and go properly sensitizing. But the sensitization is not left alone for them, because that's why we are talking about the synergy. Like in the Western world, these three arms, they work hand in hand because it's for the benefit of the masses. It's not about the agency.
Okay, now because of time, let's bring in Mrs. Wenegema here now. We're talking about synergy. Why are we having challenge with collaboration and working together, talking about the agencies involved?
Actually, we work together. We, like NEMA and FEMA, we are always working hand in hand. Of recent, we had a collaboration with the NEMA Zonal Operations Office, and we were able to do a lot of things. And the issue of relief materials, a kind of, these agencies, NEMA, FEMA, the first response, what we do is to make sure we save lives and properties. So when something happens and they call the emergency number, we go with our rescue team immediately. First things first, we make sure we rescue them. See what we can do immediately, move them from there, from danger, away from danger, from whatever disaster that has happened. That is what we do. And in actual sense, in fact, last year we also went around schools. We trained, we were able to go to all the schools within FCT, and we were able to train students on disaster management, all the children that are of school age, because we told them, we said disaster management is everybody's business, including children that are of school age. So we did that. They went back and created awareness in their own communities too, starting with their parents. That was what we told them. So what we usually do is, when any disaster happens, we are called upon, whether NEMA or FEMA, we rush there immediately, because our response time is always 5 minutes. We have vanguards that are in all the communities. Vanguards are people that will assist before we arrive.
All right, that shows that you've been working on preventive measures. Time is against us now. So quickly, let's hear from you. What are your own preventive measures? We don't have to wait for flood to come before we talk about. So just
as
a few seconds.
As an agency that monitors climate and weather, there are no things we say that we do to stop flood from coming, because ours is to predict, and the daily forecast we do, because we do long range, mid-term and long-term forecast. The seasonal rainfall prediction we do is a long-term forecast, followed by the daily predictions we do. And the monitoring we do, like, we don't just predict and go back and sleep. We monitor events to know if the prediction we made, if they are in tandem. And mind you, when we make prediction, even if it's going to bring disaster, it's not in our mindset that those disasters should happen. Okay. If the emergency agencies were able to checkmate it, as in make sure that they sensitize the public, at least even if it does happen, it will minimize the extent to which it will, tell on the public.
All right. Yeah. All right. You've made your point. Thank you very much. This is the end of our discussion on Nigeria today, and my guests have been Mr. Daniel Okafor, the General Manager, Hydrometeorological Services, Directorate of Applied Meteorology, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
for
much
sharing with us.
I appreciate it.
Also, we had Florence Wenegema, Assistant Director, Forecasting, Response and Mitigation, FCT, Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Thank you very much, Madam, for your insight.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank you at home for joining us. Remember, you can watch the program online at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24. I am Joy Usiago. Enjoy the rest of the evening.